Welcome everybody. You're here for the next hour or so to listen to Jon and I talk through a course that we've lovingly crafted over the last few months. I'm Ben Maynard. I'm a professional coach, large-scale Scrum trainer for what it's worth. Been in and around software delivery now for more years than I'd scale up counting, I think, after 10. I've been knocking around the Agile world for a similar amount of time, and it gives me great pleasure today to share with you this course that we put together, which for me, I've poured a lot of my personal experience coaching executives, coaching teams, being a senior leader myself in large banks as well. I've fed a lot of that into the into a lot of the modules that we're going to be going through in the course and run it in a few weeks' time. So yeah, I'm really pleased that you're all here and looking forward to sharing some of this with you.
Thanks very much, Paul. Just follow myself. Hey, so my name's Jon Spruce. I'm also an Agile coach and trainer. I've got quite a lot of experience in large scale Agile in various different industries, so not just in software, but in marketing and advertising, also in more recently aeronautics and pharmaceutical. So there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be working through, which can be applied to any industry really, because ultimately a lot of the issues that you face into as an Agile coach are organizational level, and you can help support people through their journeys through using professional coaching tools and techniques. And we brought alive some of them through our course, and the idea is for us to enable any participant to come through this with more tools and frameworks that they can use out the other side. So there's valuable workable things they can use at the same time as them having practice with those particular techniques. So some of the stuff we've looked at is how you can apply that, and we've kind of brought the best things that we've used in our experience over the last 10 plus years doing these things to try and bring some context to it. And one thing you'll hear us say during the course and during today will be, we focus on real play, not role play. So we ask people to bring their full selves to the courses and to experience coaching, mentoring, teaching as part of the actual experience itself. So there's a whole heap of stuff in there which is not necessarily theoretical, because you'll be actually working through some of the tools and techniques yourself as we go through. So today's agenda for the next hour or so, as Ben mentioned there, we're going to be looking at a bunch of different things. We're going to be looking at the course itself. We have this course is split over 5 days, 5 sort of half-ish days. And what we've decided is breaking each one down into the different modules that you'll be looking at to cover off the relevant learning objectives for ICAgile. And we've chosen some kind of key set pieces from each of those days to explain a little bit more, a bit of a demo of what we'll be talking about and capturing your questions as we go. So we've got 5 sort of days to go through, 5 sections to go through, and Ben and I will tag team through that to explain each of the different sort of set pieces. What we'll also do at the end is talk a little bit about what's expected from the delegates as part of the joining the course, what the kind of work expectation is and the presence needed. We'll also go through a little bit about what the certification by ICAgile covers and how that's pulled together. And we'll finish off with a little bit of a Q&A session at the end. So what we're going to do is pretty standard, as you'd probably see with these Zoom webinars, is to capture questions in the chat channel. I can see already people are starting to use some of the chats to discuss many of the weather as well, which is good. So we're going to capture any of your questions in there, and we'll use that as a bit of a backlog for stuff on the other side. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Just looking for thumbs up and nods. It should be good. Excellent stuff. Okay, without further ado then, Ben, I'll hand over to you for the first section really, and so maybe give a bit of an intro and your overview of the course as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much, Jon. So before I share my screen, because there's a little bit of, I suppose, what we wanted to achieve with this is to really give everybody a good bedrock foundation in professional coaching. You know, having been on I'm professional coaching courses at Henley Business School. Like, I know what a great coaching course is all about, and what we try to do with our ICAgile course here is kind of distill that down. So whether you're just interested in agile coaching, or you are a practicing agile coach, or you're interested in being a professional coach, this course acts as a very solid foundation for all of that. We've included a lot of the pro tools that we have picked up throughout our journey, and a lot of the tools which I've picked up through a lot of my education at Henley Business School, and tried to factor all of this in. So I hope that you like what you're about to see. And we're going to take a little look, first of all, at a little section from day one. I'm going to just share my screen with you all. Okay, so hopefully you can see a Miro board now. At least that is the intention. And what we're going to look at a little bit first at is emotional intelligence. So as part of the course, we cover many different concepts. And one of the key things which underpins, I think, so much of an agile coach's journey and a professional coach's journey is the ability to reflect. And that ability to reflect, to find ways to improve, to understand your own emotions and behaviors and control them in the moment, is so much easier, and it's so much more feasible and possible to do that if you have a good understanding of emotional intelligence. So one of the things that we do in the course is that we ask you and we teach you a little bit more about the five main parts of emotional intelligence, sometimes called EQ. And they are, in short, knowing and understanding your own emotions, and being able to understand what they mean. So what we'll do is we'll introduce you to Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions, which is a really handy way of really kind of identifying what different emotions are. I remember when I first came across the Wheel of Emotions, I was surprised at the kind of things that actually weren't emotions, as much as I was surprised at the kind of things that were actually emotions. So we talk about knowing your emotions, then we talk about being able to manage them. So there's one thing knowing your emotions, but as a coach, you have to be able to manage your emotions in the moment. You also then have to, and I think as part of a large thing like being a coach, is always looking to further yourself, always being able to be in best service of your coachee. So being able to harness and manage those emotions will lead to being able to motivate oneself to be the best you can possibly be in service of your coachee. So we'll look at that area as well. We talk about then being able to recognize emotions in others, and then how do you handle relationships? Like, these five things are what really make up emotional intelligence. And we spend time looking at each of these individually. And what we also ask is, and what we provide you with in numerous occasions during the course, is an opportunity to reflect. So what we've got here is an EQ, an emotional intelligence reflection worksheet, which we ask you to complete as homework for day one. And these worksheets pop up every now and again. And this is a structured form of reflection based upon the work of Peter Senge, I think in the fifth discipline case field book, and then also some of the something called the Henley 8, which is a structured way to reflect, understand your emotions, understand how what you've experienced as a strength for you, as well as being a pitfall, and how can you apply what you've now learned. So we're looking to make sure that when you leave this course, you're not just leaving with some knowledge, you're leaving with some insights and reflection into yourself, some ideas about how you can apply the things that you've experienced in the course, so that even if you're an experienced coach, you come out a better coach. If you haven't coached that much at all, you come out feeling more confident and more control of your emotions and being able to understand what they are. What we also do, and this is one of my favorite exercises, and it comes just after the emotional intelligence section, is to talk about listening and presence. And this is a little exercise where we ask people to go through and select a picture. Select a picture that means something to them in some way. And then we do a little exercise where we just practice listening. Listening is probably the fundamental tool that you have in your toolkit as a coach. But listening isn't something that comes naturally to many of us. I know I went on a huge journey to really tune in my listening and be fully present. So we give you a good opportunity to practice listening. We give you a good opportunity to practice speaking as well. And we take what you experience from this exercise and build upon that and talk about congruence, talk about presence, talk about being fully there, your whole self, in service of your coachee. not in service of yourself. So that's a little snippet of day one. We looked at emotional intelligence, and we look at the idea of listening. We give you some practice in that as well. If I zoom out for a second, you can get an idea of the scale of the activities that we have. We haven't got a single slide in this course. There's very, very few lecture moments. This is a very interactive course, and we want it to be as experiential as possible. And to kind of highlight that further, I will hand over to my colleague, Jon Spruce, who will be talking a little bit about day two.
Thank you very much, Ben. I'm just going to spotlight my own video here. Okay. So day two, we've structured the different days around the key learning objectives of ICAgile's learning objectives for each of the course areas. One of the big things is around the different stances that a coach can take as an agile coach. One of the big focuses for day two then is not just sort of talking about coaching and the more professional angle of that and being present, but actually around the differences for the different stances. One of these being mentoring. And what we want to talk about is, and have active participation with, is helping to understand the difference between a coach and a mentor, and to have interactive activities that allow us to do that. So we bring some of this stuff to life through breakout rooms and card sorting games, similar to one you can see on the screen, where we ask the delegates to move these cards around into each of the different columns and discuss and reflect what the differences are. The key here is around trying to identify, when you're in a coaching conversation, whether you are moving into a mentoring stance or whether you're in a coaching stance, and furthermore into sort of maybe even consulting or training. And so one of the things we wanted to focus on is the fact that mentoring is more geared towards kind of domain of knowledge, and it's helping people to support and give them some support around that. And coaching is more around helping the coachee to experience and find the answers themselves. So there's a clear difference between that. And what we want you to experience is those kind of feelings and how to be present in the moment for these things. They're both different types of relationships that you may end up kind of having as a coach. And what we want to make sure of is that you're aware of those things. To meet the learning objectives, there's really a problem to sort of stay in one stance all the time without recognizing where you are. So it's important to reflect, and it's important to do that. And we start introducing coaching triads using the mentoring structure here. So we allow people to experience being a mentor. We allow them to talk to each other. And a triad is one of the things that we use across the whole course. Some of these things, it's just at the bottom of that page too there, Ben. There we go. So what we have here is this notion where we've mentioned already at the beginning here that we're expecting real play, not role play. And we want people to bring to these experiences different things that they have. And we're not looking at you being the most excellent coach in this particular instance or the most excellent mentor in this instance. What we're looking for is participation and understanding of those different roles. So in a triad experience, one person takes the role of a coachee, and they focus on the impact that the coach or the mentor has on them. One person takes the role of a coach, and they kind of focus on the coaching conversation. We focus on the process. And one person takes the stance of an observer to observe the whole thing and to provide feedback where needed. Everyone takes a turn in each one of these different stances as part of these breakout rooms. And the first opportunity we do this is with the mentorship side of it. So we have that mentoring conversation. We ask people to bring to it some kind of domain. So what we have in here as well is an opportunity for people to share their knowledge in a particular domain and go through that mentoring conversation. I think it's important to sort of emphasize here that we're asking people to bring a lot of stuff to this. And so we want to make sure that it's a safe environment as well to do that. So we ensure that none of the kind of stuff that's shared is shared outside of the training course itself. And we're assessing as we go. So we're actually looking to see participation and engagement and working through these things together. I mean, the whole course of day two, if you just zoom out for me, Ben, on this one here, you can see there's quite a lot of stuff that we start working through here. Part of it is around building up on that initial triad introduction, looking through those mentoring comparisons, and looking at how we can help reflect. So you'll notice that every now and again we have these reflection sheets that pop up as part of these discussions, and we're allowing people to spend that time to reflect on how they can apply it. And this can be worked up in your course workbook that you provided as well. At the end of day 2, we're asked you to go off and provide a further reflection sheet on the mentoring that you've given throughout the day and what you've experienced and what things may have changed in your perception by going through that particular experience itself. And we finish off with a bit of homework for that, and we look to move into day 3. And I'll hand over to Ben now to go through day 3, if that's okay.
Day 3. I do like day 3. Each of our days has a certain theme to it, so you probably guessed there that day 2 was on mentoring, and day 3 is a bit of a mixture. It's a bit of a mixed theme. So we look at a number of things, including maybe see the trans-theoretical model, which is something which is a proven model for people changing their behaviours. But what I wanted to really focus on was actually the teaching part. So being an Agile coach isn't just about coaching. There are many different stances that you take. Mentor, facilitator, and trainer is one of them. So this particular section, coach as trainer, is one of my favorite parts of the course. I'm a training from the back of the room trainer. So what I've been able to do with particularly this area is to look at, take a training from the back of the room, kind of slant into it all. So we look through and we look at the 4 C's. So as for those of you that aren't familiar with training from the back of the room, so yeah, it's a great framework and a course and book written by Sharon Bowman. And she talks about instructional design. How do you create engaging experiential learning experiences? How do you create a safe learning community where everyone is able to learn from each other, not just from you? One of Sharon's fantastic taglines is that training from the back of the room is not about being the sage on the stage, it's about being the guide on the side. And what we're looking to do as part of this kind of coach as teacher element is to help you understand what that really means and give you some really, really practical tools. So we will be taking you through the 4 C's, this way of designing designing education, particularly Agile education, looking at the connections, the concepts. What do we mean by concrete practice? How do we conclude? When do you use this? And we will go through and help you understand this, and you'll get all of this to take away. So you've got a really lovely reference here for then taking it away and designing your own training in your own time, if that's the kind of thing you want to do. Because at times, you can't coach somebody if they have a gap in their knowledge. Sometimes, as an Agile coach, you have to find ways to fill that knowledge gap. Once they've got that, you can help them on a journey to turn that knowledge into understanding. But having engaging training is a fantastic way to start that journey. What we then do is once you've gone through and we've done the 4 C's game and you've got a good understanding of it, then what we do is then say, well, have a go at creating your own. So we give you an Agile framework, and what we're going to ask you to do is to create your own 4 C's map for a particular framework and then teach that back to the course. So, of course, back in the day when we could do this kind of thing in person, it was a very different experience. And we're not so naive to think that, but just by giving you those basic standard vanilla kind of training from the back of the room skills is going to magically enable you to do this remote. What we're talking about here when we're teaching you these techniques, when we're talking about 4 C's map, this is all oriented for doing things remotely. Okay, so this is to get you set up as a remote trainer. You can easily flip those to in-person training when you wish, and there's support we can give you on that if you want to kind of go deeper. But this is so you can do these things remotely. And nothing that we're going to teach you in this course is dependent upon doing things face to face. Hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe in the early part of next year we can return to some level of normality. But we have designed this so that you have something you can use in this kind of new remote distance world that we find ourselves in. So, John, over to you for day 4.
Thank you very much. So day 4 is focusing on mainly around the coach as a team coach, really. And it talks a little bit about things like the team chartering, team dynamics. We're also talking a little bit about what happens with the different types of teams and helping you to identify the different elements of that. So we work through one of the models, which is a Kassenbach and Smith model of team performance and team development, which kind of takes you from working group through pseudo team through to potential team, real team, and performing team, high performing team. And this is the kind of the visual use for this. And what we want to do is help you guys experience what each of these different areas are and to understand where you're on the paradigm. So if you're working in a working group, it's not a team, it's just a group of people working together, you know, in the same area, but maybe not aligned on the same kind of goals. So it's really output based, not outcome based. Pseudo teams often kind of more than working groups, they kind of often start with a bit of kind of conflict, they kind of pull together. It's often plain lip service, but there's really no kind of, you don't really get that kind of honesty. They're not people on kind of connecting together as a team. And pseudo teams are not really kind of the lowest point of performance impact. Actually, a working group is higher performing than a pseudo team. But it's a step on the journey. A potential team we're really kind of looking at there is that they're moving in the right direction, yet they haven't really established collective accountability. So there's still that idea of individuals having accountability in this space rather than the entire team. The potential team here is also, it's becoming effective and it's making its way up the curve, but it's the steepest performance gain between potential and real team. And it's one of the hardest stages to make. And part of the stuff that you do as a coach, part of the work you do with the team is helping to really understand the connection that those guys have to basically build real teams. Now, this is really kind of the heart of it. We want to make sure that a small number of people with complementary skills are equally committed and holding themselves mutually accountable for that common goal, that common purpose, and their own working approach. Now, this is what you'd see centered in sort of Scrum with the team chartering. You'd see it in different kind of agile teams, but it's a lot of times you find that there's a lot of dysfunction that happens in this space, so where people think that they're a real team, but they're actually not. And I suppose part of understanding where you are on the model is the first step to understanding how to then progress in the right direction. So as an agile coach and through the tools that we share with you, it's about helping to identify and assess where the team are as well. Of course, at the top end of the scale is the high performance team, and this can be quite a dynamic kind of session. You can move up to high performance and back down to real and back up to high performance. But what we do, it doesn't really stop just at being a real team. We can sometimes get really kind of higher performance, personal development goals, shared accountability. There's the power of the team connecting with each other. Now, we understand that, you know, at the moment with everything going on in the world, human connections are really difficult to have when you're kind of doing things remotely. And so some of the techniques you need as a coach is how to then face into those kind of issues and help people to connect to each other. So the coaching opportunities here are different and the challenges are different. And so when you're supporting teams or Scrum Masters as an agile coach, you need to understand like where they currently are and how you can help unblock some of those human connection issues as well. And only then really that those teams can start gelling, working together. You get the power of the team working really, really strong together. Now, there is a difference between a high-performing team and a team approaching burnout, and it's really important to recognize those stages as well. So we focus a lot of this stuff across day 4 we're on now, right? Yeah, day 4. For day 4, it's all about the team. It's all about the coach of the team. And if you scroll out a little bit for us, Ben, as well, you'll see that we kind of have reflection points in here as well and exercises. You'll see that there's lots of grids of things to do. And each one of those grids are often focused around a single breakout room for the group. So we'll actually have people, you guys moving into different breakout rooms. You'll be able to discuss in your smaller teams to really experience some of these things. And there'll be some other stuff around teach backs as well, depending on which exercise we work on. But as Ben mentioned, from day 1, we're putting ample time in place for personal reflection as well as group reflection. And there'll be sections inside the workbook that shall allow for those reflections as you go along. So day 4, focused on team, focused on the agile coach as a team coach, and looking at all the different sections in there about how we can help the agile coaches in the room understand where they currently are, and then how to help create those alliances and chartering with the teams themselves. That's the end of day 4. There's a little bit of homework that then goes into day 5. And Ben, if you could focus on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I think like in my personal journey as a coach and a human, I found that the process of self-reflection has been hugely beneficial. And I rarely come across anybody that hasn't done some kind of structured reflection in the coaching world that hasn't benefited from it. So we really do kind of give you a good smorgasbord of different options when it comes to your opportunities to reflect, because we want you to come out feeling like you've had a really valuable experience and you've grown as a person. I think that's one of the things that John and I want to achieve with this, is we want it to be an experience that you get something from, not a training course that you forget about. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the drama triangle. I think, John, you'll perhaps talk about the impediments part of this. But one thing I will mention before we do that is that one of the things that this course has, and it's present here and it may well appear in other sections as well, is we make good use of systems thinking and we make good use of systems modeling as well. So this isn't about constellations. This isn't about systemic modeling from a clean perspective. This is proper traditional systems modeling, where we look to kind of break down a team's behavior and teamwork and have people understand the cause and effect between it. And I'm sure that's something that Greg Hutchings is something that he's familiar with. Anybody involved in large-scale Scrum will be familiar with this too. We do teach you systems thinking and systems modeling as part of it, because it's an immensely powerful coaching tool, as is the Cartman drama triangle. Now, for those of you that haven't seen this, it's been around for quite a while now. And what it talks about is when we enter into conflict, when we're in a situation where there is conflict and it isn't really progressing, or there is conflict and it is progressing, we can identify certain roles that people will play. And I'm sure that as I just kind of give a brief overview of these, you might be able to relate to some of them. I know I certainly do quite often. So the idea being of this drama triangle is that we are stuck in this loop. We are stuck in this triangle of relationships and behaviors where potentially somebody is persecuting somebody else. And they are not valuing the other people's worth. The person they are persecuting is often a victim of this, and they don't value themselves too much. What we give you here, I don't want to kind of like overshare, but what we do is say, well, when will you see people opt for this role? Right? What will drive people to act as a persecutor? What will drive people to fall into this victim role? What will drive people to want to then come in and rescue someone? And what we also give you is some of the kind of things that you can hear them saying, or some of the things you can see them doing. So, for example, when someone's in their persecutor role, the criticism, judgment, blame, punishing, being critical, enforcing rules are all forms of persecution. When someone's in a victim role, what you can hear them saying is what they can struggle to solve a problem, struggling with decision making, saying things like, why does this always happen to me? Not taking ownership of the situation. And the rescuer role, which I think is, when you're from a coaching perspective, this is one of the most dangerous roles that you can fall into. Is this feeling of wanting to rescue someone rather than helping themselves to rescue themselves. And when we think of this from a team perspective, it's massively important. And we teach it so that you can see this and you can see this being enacted, and you can understand then, how do you intervene? What are the kind of ways you can help people? Because when we move out of a drama triangle and we've got this lovely now understanding of some of the conflict we can see happening in a team perspective, in any kind of relationship, may I say, then we can begin to say, okay, well, let's understand, well, how can we flip this? And we look at something called the winner's triangle. And what this does is say, okay, well, instead of thinking of it as being a persecutor, think of it as being assertive. Right? Don't punish them. Ask them what they want. See it, asking them to be than pushy. If someone's a victim, see them as vulnerable. Accept their vulnerability. I'll get them to value themselves in some way. Help them on the course of problem solving. They have them be more self-aware. Maybe they should do some reflection. Something I do sound like a broken record. And from rescuer to caring. Okay, so to show concerns, show that they care, but don't solve the problems for others. And what you'll often find is you can see these dynamics being played out. It's just to help you understand what role you may play in this as an Agile coach, or just as a human in relationships that you have. And once you're aware of this and you begin to label things, and once we talk about how you introduce this to teams, once you can do that, you can have a shared language and you can have meaningful conversations about what's happening within the group. But oftentimes, until we can label something, it's very difficult for us to have a shared language and a shared understanding. So we are big fans of a drama triangle and a winner's triangle from a conceptual perspective in helping people deal with conflict and help teams really kind of move up those different stages that Jon spoke about and really become truly real high performing teams. Jon.
Thank you.
Would you like to spend a little bit of time on the impediments?
Yeah, so let me just spotlight myself. There we go. So yeah, on the impediment side of things, you're going to be identifying as part of these discussions impediments which can be classified using this integral model for impediment. It's a really interesting kind of way of doing this, and we ask you to participate in identifying impediments to yourselves and inside your groups and discussing how they could be applied. Now, the reason being is that some of this can be quite important in helping to identify what kind of action needs to be taken by the coachee in this instance. So let's go through each of this kind of 4 grid here. We won't go through the exercise per se, but we'll go through the 4 grids. You kind of have 2 main axes here. You have individual and collective. So individual at the top going down to collective. So is it an individual thing for you, or is it a group issue impediment? And then you also have interior and you have exterior. Is it affecting you, your thoughts, the way that you kind of feel, or is it exterior? Is it affecting externally? And so we have the grid that then creates is starting from the top left, subjective grid I. These are the things which are part of the like what happens to you as an individual internally. How do you feel? What are your thoughts? What are your memories? How do these things affect your cognitive biases, and how can they help you kind of change? The exterior individual is more about it. So the kind of the material, like how does it affect you physically? And in effect, what we're trying to see here is that this is an objective impediment that could be getting in the way of things. If we look down to the bottom left, we talk about we, the kind of interior and collective group. So the shared values, the meanings, the language that is used, the relationships, cultural backgrounds, etc. The collective interior voice really for the team. And if we look at the exterior, we're also looking here about the interobjectivity of things. So how the systems and the networks and the technology, the environment around the teams affecting it. And this is a really good classification system that can be used to help identify who can actually affect the change. So if you're working with a team of people, and a lot of the issues are interior collective issues, as in the values, the meaning, the shared understanding of roles, responsibilities, etc., then that's a different approach to, say, for example, fixing the environment they're in. So the systems and the networks around them as well. We go through a bunch of these different experiences really about how we can do that. And we move on from, as we talked about, the drama triangles and the ladder of inference, about how we can actually change that. And then when we're using these impediment integral models, we move into the sphere of influence to support that. So what stuff in those impediments could then actually be affected? Can I do this? Can I impact that? Can I fix that? Can we do this in the room? And it allows us to classify even further about how we can actually get further information to help classify and maybe influence decisions outside of it. So as a coach, you're getting these tools to help you support the teams that you're working with and the individuals you're working with, to help them classify where the problems are. And if they can classify it, it makes it a big difference to helping to understand how to overcome it. So if there's an issue that's constantly coming up, constantly impeding the team, impeding the individual, but it's outside of their control, it allows you to have that conversation with them about what can be inside their control and how they can manage it. So you may not be able to change the cards that are dealt, but you can always change the way that you can play the hand. And I think it's an important opportunity to provide those kind of tools to have that thinking. As a coach, you're not always going to have the answer. And actually, it's all about trying to find the answer from within. So helping them classify where the issues are and how they can approach it is one of the key tools we kind of give you in this. So yeah, and then we kind of finish off, I suppose, Ben, and the rest of day 5 is rounding off with really kind of bringing to life all the stuff we've worked on over the last 5 days, and coming into how you can use that to help assess teams, to work together as a kickoff of a team, what's involved in actually getting teams launched, and finally actually working through an assessed coaching session in the Triads again, where we're working through as individuals to see that shared learning in the room and how that's kind of got there. As you can see, there's quite a lot of stuff that we get through, but this is the extent of it. We have a student workbook that you have, and you have everything that's inside this Miro board as well to work through. No slides, no deckware, no death by PowerPoint. What we're here to do is to try and help you experience the learning, and also work through some of the shared stuff together. Okay. So we finished off on day 5 there, and we finished off on the core kind of course structure really. As part of that, you're actually going to be going through quite a lot of experiences. You're going to be looking at some of the tools. There will be some pre-read that we share with you as well. There's also reading lists that we'll provide, and there'll be excellent stuff that you can have as part of it. And I think there's an important thing here is that real play, not role play element to it, where we expect you to be working with each other and working with the trainers to help experience how it feels like to be a coach, how it feels like to be a coachee, what it likes to observe some of these experiences, what tools can you use, and et cetera, et cetera. The ICAgile course itself is a knowledge-based course, so it's about gaining knowledge and not necessarily gaining competency. It's more about making sure that you're trying these things and learning how to use them. It doesn't necessarily mean that you'll come out the other side of it an excellent coach. You'll be starting on your journey with some of the professional coaching tools and techniques, and hopefully have questions at the other side of this that you can help continue your personal development as well. Ben, any thoughts on that at all? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, the last thing is, I mean, we have worked hard to create something which is engaging and which we believe is fun and incredibly useful. We want people to leave every single day with something of value, with a few new tools, with a few new friends, and to kind of keep those conversations going. The big distinction that we will, I think it's important to make for any of these types of things, that there is a distinct difference between professional coaching, as would be recognised by, say, the ICF, and agile coaching. And we want to help make that segregation very, very clear. But what that doesn't mean is that you can't use professional coaching skills as an agile coach. You absolutely can. You absolutely can. And this course is chock full of all of those professional coaching skills. It's founded on the same ethics that are bound by the ICF. And we want to make sure that people leave, as I said at the beginning, with an incredibly strong foundation to accelerate or begin their coaching journey. And I suppose on that note, John, shall we see if anybody has any questions?
Sure. Well, actually, just before we do that, I just wanted to quickly go through just some of the expectations. We mentioned a few bits and pieces throughout, actually, Ben, about what we expect from people when they kind of come to our training. I just wanted to go through some of the logistics of it as well, really, so that everyone's aware. The expectations are, it's a remote training course, this particular version of the course itself, which means we're attending through Zoom, and there'll be collaborative exercises through things like Miro and breakout rooms and what have you. We expect engagement throughout that period. It's not a case of sit back. You've got to lean into the course and participate. You have to attend all 5-day sessions to make sure that you manage to cover the material as well. Like I said, it's a knowledge gaining qualification here. It's how we get through it. We wanted that real play, not role play. So we want you to bring your whole self and whatever you feel safe sharing, of course. We want to make sure that that's part of the experience, and we want you to make sure that there's real tools that you're going to walk away with, and maybe some opportunities to share that. So we want you to basically be able to share and bring that in as well. And there will be some pre-course material as well, some pre-reading and some stuff to prepare as we go along. As part of the certification, I see a question just popped up there from James about how you're certified. The demonstrate knowledge acquisition element of this, you need to be able to demonstrate that you've learned stuff throughout, and you've understood the learning objectives, and you've experienced some of that work. It's not about being an ICF level professional coach at the end of the course. It's more about understanding the frameworks that we've talked about, how those apply to the real world and what you can do with it. There isn't an exam, but there is attendance and formal assessment done by the trainers. So baked into this, we're assessing your participation throughout. Are they sharing? Are they engaging? Are they working through the objectives? When we're going through some of these simulations and exercises, we're checking that you're engaging and working through that. And like I said, at the end of day 5, there's a formal assessment of your coaching practice and what you've picked up on the day. So we're making sure that we have both attendance and we have that, but there's no exam at the end of the ICAgile course. It's down to how we feel as trainers you've been participating and how you kind of come across with that final assessment, really. I've got a question here as well, I think, which is around the schedules. We have when Ben mentioned there, we have plenty of breaks throughout. We've found that with remote training, long blocks of time can really have a massive impact to the way people can participate and engage in the content. And so we have lots of very regular breaks, and each one of those exercises are short play exercises, which allow for people to experience things, but we allow for breaks in between as well. So every 45-50 minutes, we have about a 7-minute break. And those 7-minute breaks allow you to disconnect cameras and mics and have a stretch and get a coffee, go for a walk. 10 minutes seems a bit too long. We tend to lose people at 10 minutes. 5 minutes is too short because you can't get kettlebelled in 5 minutes. So we go for like about 7 minutes. And you'd be quite surprised how quickly those breaks come around, but it's made a huge difference to how people can engage. If you're in front of a camera and you're in front of a whole group of people, you can get really tired really quickly. You're engaging different parts of your brain. You're learning a lot. So you need to have those very regular breaks. And that's why we've broken it down over such a long period of time, over 5 days. You still have the same amount of contact hours as if you're in an in-person 3-day course. But what you do get is regular breaks and lots of time to sort of think and reflect, as Ben said as well.
And also the course, there's a good pace through the course. So you're not going to be bored. The breaks will come around very, very quickly. There may be like one of the training from the back of the room principles which we apply in this is, we do short chunks of information. We try and change it up as often as possible. There's very little lecture. As I said, there's no slides. So we do try and keep that pace up. So the time goes very, very quickly. And the breaks will come around before you know it.
Thank you, Ben. I've got a question here just to say that somebody's mentioned that they've joined late. I think it's Perry that's joined late. So this video will be recorded and edited and be available on our YouTube channel afterwards. Everyone that's in the group will share anyway, so that you have a recording of this to revisit if you need to. And we'll also share it into the meetup group as well. So everyone who's not managed to attend it, then they could actually do as well. Okay. Are there any other questions that haven't been answered so far? I'm just looking through the list. It feels like we have.
I mean, maybe if we just kind of recap some of the questions, just to make sure that for those of you that haven't read the chat. There was actually from Dilek, who's been really, really useful and helpful in the chat. Mentioned about active listening, and we said that in the course we do talk about active listening, and we talk about different levels of listening, and that listening exercise evolves into understanding the different levels of listening and reflecting about how it feels to shift between the different levels. So we do cover that with a particular focus because it's something very, very useful. There was a question, I think, which John kind of has already mentioned this, but in the pre-reading and the pre-course mail, we do include a reading list. It's optional. It isn't mandatory. We're not saying you have to go and buy and read all these books. But if you are interested, then there's some stuff there you can pick up and you can read, should you have a desire to, but it is by no means mandatory. But there's so many great books out there. It's kind of, we have a duty to share some of those. And the time commitment per day, around 9:30 to 2:15 each day. But as I said, very quick days, it will fly by. And just to reiterate what John was saying, those breaks that you get, having half a day then to reflect, to let it all sink in, means when you come in the next day, we'll make time to answer your questions, to kind of reflect on your reflections and make sure that you are all served best.
Okay, I've got a question here, which is to say, what's the YouTube channel link? I'm going to post it into the chat so you have a link to the YouTube channel. we'll actually post a direct link to this as well when we've edited it and shared it out into the meetup group as well, and you'll get a copy of that. I just wanted to also mention as well, oh, that's interesting. There's a question from Anna that's just to come in. How many participants can attend each course? So the course itself, we're currently looking to run. I think it's the first cohort of people coming through would be a maximum of 12 in the first course. We're looking for multiples of 3 to enable the coaching conversations, but actually, because there's 2 facilitators, if we ever need to, we can always swap in and out, and we can always ensure that there's always those triads that can be there. We're looking for a small amount to begin with, to ensure that everyone's got that learning as we go through. We'd rather have high quality learning than trying to sort of put 30 people through a single class. I think there's a lot of engagement, a lot of interactivity, and a lot of kind of collaboration. So it's important to have the right number of people. 12 to 15 is going to be our kind of maximum for the first few courses. The actual first course that we're running is not too far away, actually. We're
Monday, running. Sorry, have you got it there, John?
Yeah, I'm just bringing it up on screen now. So it's Monday, the 23rd of November through to the 27th of November, about 9:30 or so. I can drop in the link into the channel as well. So I'm going to just drop that into everybody here. If this is the first course we're running, this is where you can purchase a ticket for the course. It is available now to purchase. You can see there's a discounted price already on early bird. One of the things as well is that by attending today, you guys also get access to an exclusive 15% discount code as well. So I'm gonna pop that into the channel as well. So if you are interested in taking this course, this will be the first course we run. The next course will be running probably January time. We're just confirming on dates there. There's a code you can enter at the checkout. I'm just dropping that into the chat channel as well. This will give you an exclusive 15% off the actual price of the ticket at the end of the checkout process. So you can actually apply that straight away. You can also get in touch with us to sign up for updates when the next courses are out. You can join our mailing list for that as well, and that's all on the website for you to join up to. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to either Ben or myself, or indeed contact the Agile Center team, and we can let you know when the next course dates are released. Like I said, the one for this year will be 23rd to the 27th of November. The first one in the new year will be, I would imagine, I think we're looking around about mid to late January, possibly into Feb. Well, as soon as we've got that date released, we'll let you guys know.
Derek asked about the facilitation techniques. We do use a couple of liberating structures and some deviations from the norm as well in that respect. So we do utilize those as well. We will, in the new year, have a specific facilitation course, which will be made available as well, where we'll be covering off kind of various facilitation techniques, not just liberating structures. But yes, you will see some liberating structures inspired things on here, and some things taken directly from liberating structures, as well as a number of different facilitation techniques that Jon and I have just picked up and evolved over the years.
Thank you, Ben. I'm just trying to see if there's any other questions that have not been answered yet. I think we kind of covered a bunch of different questions in here. I think we've got 5 minutes left of our 7 minutes left, I think, actually, in total. I'll open up to the room, we think we've answered everything in the text-based chat so far. Are there any other questions from the room about some of the stuff we've talked about today, either about the structure of the course, some of the logistics of it, the content, even down to our inspiration for it? Let us know. We're here to answer your questions as part of the purpose of this, really.
I had a short question, which is just if you wish to share, have you noticed any changes in personal relationships through the development of the course and the learning that you've done outside of the intended purpose of Agile coaching or becoming a better coach? For example, being a better parent or a better partner, or other personal changes?
I mean, I can talk about on my coaching journey about learning through coaching. I mean, I've definitely become a more rounded, more in control human being. I can say that for sure. I think just becoming more aware of my own emotions and my own triggers. I think there was, when we're putting together this course, there was a particular a particular tool from cognitive behavioral coaching called ABCDE, bit of a mouthful. And I found that that for me was like transformative, because it's like a deviation of cognitive behavioral therapy, but from a more of a coaching perspective. And I found that fundamentally changed me in a few ways, because it was able to like find out what some of my triggers were and create little action plans for dealing with them whilst in coaching. But as a result, I think it's definitely made me just a more rounder, calmer, less anxious human being.
Cool.
I'd like to also respond as well, Greg, on that one. I think for me, some of my experiences through the coaching journey and for building this course is twofold, really. Is the focus on listening more, not having all the answers, recognizing that it's okay not to have the answers, and to really engage with people. I talk a lot, and the more coffee I have, the more I talk, which means it's quite easy for me to sort of run on and run on and run on. And actually, part of the reflection I have is that by being more actively engaged in the listening part of this, it makes it easier for me to really connect as a human with somebody else. And I'm not always the person with the answers. And traditionally, I'm the person who will try and fix things, really. And that can be difficult when you're kind of faced into those things. Some people just want to have the space to talk and to listen. And from a personal perspective, being more present with my family and being more present to the situations has helped me as well with that. So active listening is really important in that space, and understanding where I am on the paradigm can be quite helpful. And then the second part of it is reflection. We keep on talking about it in the course because we're both so huge, we're really big advocates of self-reflection and of group reflection. And so we bake that into the course structure and what have you. But I think reflection as a whole is such an under serviced side of coaching that actually it's really important to understand yourself and to be able to reflect on that and to give room for that effectively. And so I'm providing more of that in my kind of self-reflection and the reflection on the work that I do. And I found that's made a massive difference, not just inside my team coaching with organizations, but as a human as well, with my relationships with my family and friends. Being able to reflect on things and be able to sort of bring my whole self has been really helpful, I think.
It's great. I appreciate that. I really believe that the holistic aspect of personal change, internal change, is symmetric and reinforces the strength of your coaching of teams. So I appreciate that. You've done a wonderful job, you guys. This is really a nice experience to have heard about the course. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. Cheers. Femi, you have your hand up there, sir.
Yes. Quick question. I don't know whether my message didn't come through in chat. So a number of people would have gone through this ICAgile course elsewhere, and they might want to have a unique experience with yourself or yourselves. Just based on what I've seen here, it looks very, very nice. So how is that going to work for both parties? The fact that they've already got the accreditation from ICAgile, but they just want to enjoy the experience, this unique experience. How would that work?
You're on mute, Ben.
So it's a very good question, and you know, it's not one. It's very flattering as well to have you say that. So thank you very much, John. It's not something that we've spoken about, is it? Really? I mean, I'm sure maybe have had an offline conversation about that and think about what we can do for people.
Yeah, I will. Fami, I'll reach out to you directly and we'll have a look at that. If somebody's had the experience already, they want to go through this, and they're not necessarily interested in just gaining the certification, there could be an opportunity there for us to still work together and still attend. We can look at that, definitely. I think the idea here is that we're trying to get a shared experience for all the people involved and to help sort of do that. It's not something we've tackled before, but I'll talk to you directly, Femi, about that one.
Thank you.
We've probably got time for one more question if there's anything left from anybody else. Just silence. Okay. We'll definitely bring you out your shells if you come into the course itself. We'll get you talking quite a lot, I think. So there's no more.
I mean, I'm saying if you come on the course, then yeah, I mean, in order to go through the reflection, if I'd mention it one more time, and to be able to take feedback, our focus is on creating a really strong community with you all. We want you to leave with new acquaintances. We want you to leave, as cheesy as it may sound, but they're well-run courses. If I look at one of the last remote courses I run, people left with new friends, and they're still in contact now. So we want to create those friendships and those relationships so that people can be open and honest through it all. So if you want to come on a course and just kind of retire into the background, this isn't the course for you. We have to see you engaged. We have to see you coaching. We want to see you understand a bit of mentoring as well. Otherwise, we can't certify you anyway. So this isn't one for sitting at the back. This is one for being engaged and involved and going on a learning journey with all of us together.
And just to finalize on that one, I think it's because you'll get more out of it. Once you've engaged in it, you will also get more out of the actual process. We have alumni groups that connect on Slack and in LinkedIn. They tend to sort of stay together as a bit of a cohort and continue to learn together as well. So we're available. If you wanted to have a one-to-one, by all means, get in touch with Ben or I on LinkedIn. We can answer any further questions. Started, so I'll finish. Always sticking to the time boxes. This is what it's like when you're delivering remote training all the time. You've always got timers running. And I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us today and listening and hearing about the course that we've spent a lot of time and effort building, and hopefully it's coming across that it's an enjoyable experience, and it's something that it'll be challenging in places and rewarding in others, and you'll walk away with probably more questions and answers, but you'll still walk away with valuable tools and stuff to use in your day-to-day. As I said before, there is a discount code if you do want to join us in the November course. I'll share that out to the group as well. We'll have this as a video on YouTube in the next day or so, and I'll share that to the group if you join late or if you want to reuse and revisit any of the content we shared today. Ben, anything else from you just before we close out?
Have a great rest of your week and a lovely weekend.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much, guys.